1922 and the Russian Civil War just ended with Bolshevik victory, and the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics was established and declared as the successor of the Russian Empire. The ideology of the Soviet Union was Marxism-Leninism, but how Marxist was the Soviet Union in reality? How well was Marxist theory applied in the Soviet Union? To understand what Marxism is, you have to first know who Karl Marx is. Karl Marx was a German-born philosopher, sociologist, economist, but most importantly, Karl was a revolutionary socialist. His best-known work is the Communist Manifesto, which he wrote together with Friedrich Engels. The Communist Manifesto was what really popularized the theory of socialism around the world. In the Communist Manifesto, Karl explains his philosophical theories on many topics such as class and society, the economy, the role of the state, planned economy, and about general worker welfare. Marx believed that after the workers revolted against capitalism and overthrew the bourgeoisie, society would evolve into a classless system where no groups had power over any other groups. Workers would control the means of production and social hierarchies would disappear. Shortly after the Soviet Union abolished private property, the nobility, and the capitalist class, aiming to put the workers in a more favorable position, a new ruling class emerged. The elite at the Communist Party, usually referred to as the nomenklatura, great that the workers no longer had a boss to obey to, but they were now subordinated to the state officials, party leaders, and bureaucrats who became their new de facto bosses. These state officials, party leaders, and bureaucrats had much better lives than Marx's beloved workers. They had better houses, better and more food, usually were educated much better, and had access to actual healthcare, creating classes which killed Marx's theory on classless society. Marx saw the dictatorship of the workers as temporary, hoping that once the workers got rid of any of the old power and old nobility held by the bourgeoisie, that the dictatorship would dissolve itself, leading to a society achieving true communism, and would no longer need a central government to function, leading to anarchism. In the Soviet Union, Lenin and the Bolsheviks did what Marx said. They established a workers' dictatorship by consolidating the power in the Communist Party. While this was supposed to be temporary, the state became more and more authoritarian by taking away democracy and freedom of speech from the workers they were supposed to help. This became even worse under Stalin. Socialism did not wither away but solidified into a one-party state that had a say about everything going on in your life. Workers did not get the autonomy they were promised under Marxism-Leninism. Instead, the Communist Party decided on what happened on the work floor. This ended up causing a political monopoly that Marx had not hoped for in his manifesto. Lenin tried to justify this by saying that Russia was a backwater nation that was largely agrarian and did not have too many workers, but instead had many uneducated farmers, so the state needed guidance through the transition from socialism to communism. Lenin supposedly wanted to create stability, get rid of foreign intervention, and mature the workers before going on to communism. This was the justification they needed to keep the state powerful. The state was in Marx's opinion a tool made by the oppressors and the rich to oppress and keep the poor in check. He believed that if socialist revolution were to be successful, the state would gradually lose importance as discussed previously and would disappear eventually once the population was ready for communism. Marx was against the state repressing of the common man. In the Soviet Union, the whole disappearing of the state didn't gain much traction. The state grew only stronger under Lenin and Stalin, turning into a big business or immense bureaucratic machine. Under Stalin, the state expanded its control over every tiny aspect of life, such as the media, the education, and even the arts. Secret police was made to suppress the people and maintain control, the polar opposite of what Marx's vision was of democracy, a stateless society. Stalin's purges, show trials, and gulag system were not what Marx had in mind when he thought of a communist utopia. Marx taught capitalism free market caused for anarchy in production, where goods were made so the factory owner could earn money instead of them serving the well-being of the common man by making what was needed. Marx wanted factories to be ruled democratically and wanted the people to control the market by producing as much as there was demand for. The Soviet Union implemented Marx's whole central planning idea, with the state directing the economy under ideas such as Stalin's infamous 5-year plans. These were aimed to control the poor Russian agricultural lands and turn them into industry so the Soviet economy could flourish. All privately owned agriculture was collectivized and were made to work by the state to reach production goals. While this wasn't that bad in theory for the economy, it caused problems because the people deciding how much there was supposed to be produced often had no idea on how much demand there was. This led to big inefficiencies and often led to famines and caused resistance from the farmers on the farms. Marx had imagined the people take care of how much there was needed instead of bureaucrats who were far removed from day-to-day life. Under Soviet rules, workers remained alienated. They were pushed into factories with harsh quotas and even harsher penalties for failing to meet the quotas. The state determined where and when you would work, which caused a lot of feelings of unfulfillment underling workers. Instead of the emancipation they were promised, they saw very little improvement and had intense pressure put on them because of the 5-year plans. Marx believed that once the single revolution ended up in socialism, that the workers of the entire world would unite and overthrow the elites and establish socialism across national borders. Nationalism was, according to Marx, an ideology made to disunite the workers of the world. After the failure of the revolutionary movements around the world, the Soviet Union adopted socialism in one country. Socialism in one country was a very unorthodox policy. Rather than waiting for the worldwide revolution, Stalin argued that the Soviet Union could build socialism within its own borders. While they did support and fund communist movements around the world, the Soviet Union prioritized its own national interests, often at the expense of global communist solidarity. So much for workers of the world, unite.